She born too ugly. Her parents left her to die. 20 years later, she is. The sterile white walls of the delivery room seemed to close in as Maggie and Ryan Carter stared down at their newborn daughter. Their faces, once glowing with excitement for this moment, now twisted into masks of horror. The baby's cries filled the air, but they barely registered over the crushing weight of disappointment that settled between them. Maggie clutched her phone tightly, scrolling through Instagram posts of perfect families posing with cherubic babies. She couldn't imagine uploading a photo of this. Not when her followers expected flawless content. Not when their brand depended on perfection. Ryan leaned closer to the nurse, his voice low and strained. "Is there anything you can do?" The nurse frowned, confused. "Do? To fix it," he clarified, gesturing vaguely toward the infant's face. "I'm sorry," she replied gently. "Her condition is congenital. There are surgeries, yes, but nothing immediate and no guarantees." Maggie let out a shaky breath, tears streaming down her cheeks, not out of sorrow for the child, but for the life she'd envisioned crumbling before her eyes. "We can't raise her," Maggie whispered hoarsely. "Not like this." Ryan nodded stiffly, his jaw clenched. They both knew what had to be done. That night, while Willow slept soundly in her bassinet, they left behind a handwritten note tucked beneath her blanket. She didn't make it. And just like that, they walked away from the hospital, leaving their daughter to an uncertain fate. Willow was placed in the foster care system shortly after being discovered by social services. Her first few years were marked by constant movement, from one home to another, none willing to keep her for long. Potential adoptive parents would show up, only to recoil upon seeing her face. Some even laughed nervously or muttered under their breath about how unrealistic adoption might be. By age 6, Willow already understood she was different. Other kids avoided her on playgrounds, whispering cruel names behind cupped hands. Monster face, ugly doll, freak. Even adults flinched when she looked directly at them, unable to meet her gaze without discomfort. One particularly harsh memory stood out, a birthday party thrown by one of her foster families. Willow sat alone at the table, watching as other children gleefully opened presents meant for someone else. When she reached for a slice of cake, a boy shoved it off the plate, shouting, "Who wants food from a monster?" No one stopped him. That night, curled up in her small bed, Willow cried herself to sleep, but not because of what the boy had said. It was the silence from the adults, their refusal to acknowledge her pain, that hurt the most. As Willow grew older, she learned to navigate a world that rejected her. She spent hours in libraries devouring books about science, art, and history, anything to escape the loneliness gnawing at her heart. In fiction, she found characters who were misunderstood, yet triumphed against all odds. In science, she marveled at the intricacies of biology and engineering, imagining a future where she could create something beautiful despite her own appearance. But the outside world remained unforgiving. At school, teachers tried to intervene when bullies targeted her, but Willow often shrugged it off, insisting she didn't care. Deep down, though, each taunt carved a little deeper into her soul. By high school, Willow retreated further into herself, spending lunch breaks sketching elaborate designs in notebooks. Her drawings became her sanctuary, a place where beauty existed beyond physical appearances. She dreamed of creating prosthetics or facial reconstruction technology, inspired by stories of doctors who helped others reclaim their confidence. Yet even as she planned for a brighter future, the scars of her past lingered. Every rejection, every cruel word whispered in hallways, reinforced the belief that she would never truly belong. At 17, Willow aged out of the foster care system. With nowhere else to go, she moved into a tiny studio apartment provided by a local nonprofit organization. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of independence, but also isolation. One day, while browsing online forums for people with rare medical conditions, she stumbled upon a post from a woman named Elena. Like Willow, Elena had been born with a facial deformity. But unlike Willow, Elena radiated confidence in her profile picture, smiling brightly despite her asymmetrical features. Curious, Willow sent her a private message. "How do you deal with it? How do you keep going when everyone stares?" Elena responded almost immediately. "You have two choices, Willow. Let the world define you, or redefine yourself. It's not easy, but trust me, it's worth it. For the first time in years, Willow allowed herself to hope. Maybe she wasn't destined to live in shadows forever. Maybe, just maybe, she could step into the light. Over the next 3 years, Willow threw herself into her studies, earning a scholarship to a prestigious university for biomedical engineering. Her dream of developing advanced prosthetics became a mission, one fueled by both personal experience and a desire to help others facing similar struggles. But as graduation approached, Willow realized her journey was far from over. While she had grown stronger, more resilient, the wounds inflicted by her abandonment still ached. And deep down, she wondered if confronting her past might finally bring closure or open doors to redemption she never imagined possible. It was a cold winter night when the fire broke out. Willow, now 10 years old, lay curled up in her bed in yet another temporary foster home, a cramped, run-down house filled with too many children and too little care. The flames spread quickly, devouring the wooden walls and trapping everyone inside. The other kids screamed as smoke filled the air, but Willow didn't make a sound. She learned long ago that crying for help rarely brought any. Instead, she grabbed the small backpack she kept under her bed, filled with nothing more than a few sketches, a tattered journal, and an old stuffed rabbit, and crawled through the chaos toward the window. By some miracle, she managed to escape before the roof collapsed. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, but no one noticed the soot-covered girl limping away into the snowy darkness. When authorities arrived, they found the charred remains of the house and presumed all occupants had perished. Among them, they listed Willow Carter as presumed dead. And just like that, she disappeared from the system entirely. For weeks, Willow wandered alone, surviving on scraps scavenged from dumpsters and handouts from strangers who barely glanced at her scarred face. Eventually, she stumbled upon an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, a crumbling structure littered with broken furniture and graffiti, but it became her sanctuary. Using salvaged materials, she built herself a makeshift shelter within the warehouse, creating a space that felt almost safe. Over time, Willow began to carve out a fragile existence. She learned how to blend into the background, avoiding attention not just because of her appearance, but because invisibility meant survival. Yet even as she adapted to this harsh new reality, a deep anger simmered beneath the surface. An anger directed not only at the world that rejected her, but at the parents who abandoned her without a second thought. One fateful evening, while rummaging through a dumpster behind a local diner, Willow encountered someone who would change her life forever. "Hey, kid," a gruff voice called out, "you're going to get sick eating that garbage." He taught her how to tinker with discarded electronics, showing her how to turn scraps into functional gadgets. In return, Willow shared her sketches, revealing a talent for design that impressed even him. "You've got potential," Victor told her one day, handing her a soldering iron. "Don't waste it hiding in shadows." Though Willow remained wary, years of betrayal had made trust nearly impossible. She couldn't deny the spark of hope Victor ignited within her. For the first time since the fire, she allowed herself to dream of a future beyond survival. As Willow grew older under Victor's guidance, she discovered he harbored secrets of his own. Hidden beneath the warehouse floor was a labyrinthine workshop filled with half-finished inventions and blueprints for projects far beyond anything she'd imagined. One device in particular caught her eye, a sleek mask-like apparatus designed to alter facial features using advanced holographic technology. "What's this?" she asked curiously, running her fingers over its smooth surface. Victor hesitated, then sighed. "Something I started years ago, for someone like you." "Someone like me," Willow echoed, her voice tinged with bitterness. "Not ugly," Victor corrected firmly. "Different. People fear what they don't understand, Willow. This invention could give you control over how others see you, but it comes with risks." Willow studied the mask intently, torn between fascination and doubt. Could such a device truly shield her from the world's cruelty? Or would it merely reinforce the belief that she needed to hide? Determined to prove herself, Willow spent months perfecting the prototype under Victor's watchful eye. When it was finally ready, she stood before a cracked mirror, holding the mask in trembling hands. With a deep breath, she activated it. Instantly, her reflection transformed. Gone were the distortions and scars. In their place was a flawless, symmetrical face, the kind she'd always dreamed of having. Tears welled in her eyes as she stared at the stranger looking back at her. But the moment was fleeting. As the mask hummed softly, Willow felt a sharp pang of guilt. Was this really who she wanted to be? Someone defined by appearances, just like the people who rejected her? Before she could decide, a loud crash echoed through the warehouse. Someone or something had breached their sanctuary. A group of masked intruders stormed into the workshop, wielding weapons and shouting demands. They weren't ordinary criminals. They were corporate agents sent by a powerful tech conglomerate, eager to claim Victor's inventions for themselves. "Hand over the designs," their leader barked, pointing a gun at Victor, "or we'll burn this place to the ground." Willow froze, clutching the mask tightly. This was her chance to disappear again, to vanish into the crowd wearing her new face. But as she watched Victor raise his hands in surrender, she realized she couldn't abandon him, not after everything he'd done for her. Summoning every ounce of courage, Willow stepped forward, activating the mask once more. Her flawless features startled the intruders, giving her precious seconds to act. With quick thinking and resourcefulness honed by years of survival, she used Victor's gadgets to disable their weapons and drive them off. When the dust settled, Victor placed a hand on her shoulder, pride shining in his eyes. "You saved us," he said simply. Willow nodded, though uncertainty lingered in her heart. She'd proven she could fight back, but at what cost? And how long could she keep running from the truth about her past? Years before the fire, when Willow was just 8 years old, she had been taken to a hospital for a routine consult regarding her facial condition. It was one of the rare moments someone showed genuine compassion toward her. Dr. Eleanor Voss, a renowned yet enigmatic plastic surgeon known for her groundbreaking work in reconstructive surgery, examined Willow with a calm and steady gaze. Unlike others who flinched or looked away, Dr. Voss met Willow's eyes directly, speaking softly but firmly. "You have a beautiful mind," Dr. Voss told her after the examination. "Don't let anyone make you believe otherwise." Though Willow didn't fully understand the weight of those words at the time, they stayed with her, a faint glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak existence. But as quickly as Dr. Voss entered her life, she vanished from it, leaving behind only memories of that brief encounter. On the night of the fire, fate intervened once again. As Willow wandered through the snowy streets, shivering and exhausted, she collapsed near the entrance of an abandoned clinic on the outskirts of town. By sheer coincidence, or perhaps destiny, it was a building owned by none other than Dr. Eleanor Voss, who used it as storage for medical supplies and equipment. Dr. Voss arrived early the next morning to retrieve some files and found Willow unconscious on the steps. At first glance, she didn't recognize the girl. Years of neglect and hardship had left their mark. But something about Willow's face stirred a memory deep within her. "Bringing Willow inside, Doctor." Voss tended to her wounds and provided warmth and care. When Willow finally woke, disoriented and frightened, she blinked up at the woman hovering over her. Recognition dawned slowly and tears spilled down her cheeks. "You," Willow whispered hoarsely, "you were there, at the hospital." Dr. Voss nodded, her expression softening. "I remember you. You're stronger than you think, Willow, and I'm going to help you." Over the following weeks, Dr. Voss nursed Willow back to health, giving her not just shelter, but also a sense of stability she'd never known. For the first time in years, Willow slept soundly, knowing she wasn't alone. Dr. Voss lived a quiet, secluded life in a remote cabin surrounded by dense woods, a place where no one would find them. She explained to Willow that she preferred solitude because it allowed her to focus on her work without distractions. Yet beneath her reserved exterior lay a deep well of empathy, especially for those who suffered unjustly due to societal cruelty. In return for her kindness, Willow helped around the house, cleaning, cooking, and organizing Dr. Voss's meticulous notes and tools. Slowly, trust began to form between them, bridging the gap of years and pain. As Willow regained her strength, Dr. Voss introduced her to her world of medicine and innovation. The basement of the cabin housed a state-of-the-art laboratory filled with cutting-edge technology designed for reconstructive procedures. Intrigued, Willow watched as Dr. Voss demonstrated techniques that could transform lives. not just physically, but emotionally. "This is my life's work," Dr. Voss explained one evening, while showing Willow a prototype device capable of mapping and simulating facial reconstruction. "To give people a second chance, to let them see themselves as they truly are, beyond what society dictates." Willow listened intently, her heart swelling with admiration and inspiration. Here was someone who understood her pain, who had dedicated her life to helping others overcome similar struggles. For the first time, Willow dared to imagine a future where she might do the same. Yet despite her growing bond with Dr. Voss, Willow couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her savior's story. One night, unable to sleep, she ventured into the lab and discovered a locked drawer filled with old photographs and documents. Among them was a faded picture of a young girl with striking similarities to Dr. Voss, and a newspaper clipping detailing a tragic accident that left the girl permanently disfigured. The realization hit Willow like a thunderclap. Dr. Voss wasn't just motivated by altruism, she was driven by personal experience. The girl in the photo was her, decades earlier. When Dr. Voss caught Willow examining the items, she didn't scold her. Instead, she sat down and shared her story, a tale of loss, resilience, and redemption. "I became a surgeon not just to heal others," Dr. Voss admitted, her voice trembling slightly, "but to confront my own scars, to prove that beauty isn't erased by tragedy, it's redefined." Willow felt a profound connection to Dr. Voss in that moment. They were kindred spirits bound by shared pain and a desire to transcend it. Inspired by Dr. Voss's journey, Willow began assisting her in the lab, learning the intricacies of reconstructive surgery and developing innovative solutions for patients. Together, they worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But as Willow grew older and more skilled, she started asking questions about her past, questions Dr. Voss couldn't answer. Who were her parents? Why had they abandoned her? And could confronting them bring closure or vengeance? Nestled deep within the rugged mountains of Oregon, far from prying eyes and judgmental stares, stood a sprawling estate shrouded by towering pines and misty valleys. This was Eleanor Voss's sanctuary, a place where she had retreated after the tragic loss of her own daughter years ago. It was here that Willow found refuge, hidden away from a world that had never shown her kindness. The estate was both breathtaking and haunting. Its grand architecture spoke of another era, with ivy-covered stone walls and arched windows overlooking endless wilderness. Inside, however, the air carried an undercurrent of melancholy, as if every corner held memories Eleanor couldn't bear to let go. Willow quickly learned that this home wasn't just a hideaway. It was a fortress built to protect not only its inhabitants, but also their secrets. No one visited unannounced. No outsiders knew of its existence. For Willow, it became both a haven and a mystery, a place where safety came at the cost of isolation. As the days turned into weeks, Willow began piecing together fragments of Eleanor's past. Late at night, when the house grew quiet except for the howling wind outside, Eleanor would sit by the fireplace, staring into the flames with a distant look in her eyes. One evening, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, Willow asked softly, "Who was your daughter?" Eleanor stiffened, her gaze fixed on the fire. After a long pause, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, "Her name was Lily. She was everything to me." Willow listened intently as Eleanor recounted the story of Lily's tragic accident, a car crash caused by reckless drivers who fled the scene, leaving her trapped and severely injured. Though surgeons managed to save her life, Lily's face was left disfigured beyond recognition. Overwhelmed by guilt and grief, Eleanor threw herself into her work, determined to help others avoid the same fate. But despite her efforts, she couldn't save Lily from the depression that consumed her. One snowy winter night, Lily took her own life, leaving Eleanor shattered. "She thought I didn't love her anymore," Eleanor confessed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "But it wasn't true. I loved her more than anything. I just didn't know how to reach her." Hearing Eleanor's story, Willow felt a profound connection to the woman who had saved her. Like Lily, Willow had been rejected by those who should have loved her most. But unlike Lily, Willow still had a chance to rewrite her narrative, with Eleanor's guidance. You remind me of her, Eleanor said one morning as they worked side by side in the lab. Not just because of your scars, but because of your strength. You're fighting, Willow. Don't ever stop. Those words stayed with Willow, fueling her determination to rise above the pain of her past. In return, she vowed to honor Eleanor's legacy, not just as a surgeon, but as someone who could offer hope to others like them. Living in the secluded estate brought challenges, but also unexpected joys. Willow adapted to the rhythms of mountain life, tending to the greenhouse filled with medicinal herbs, exploring the dense forests surrounding the property, and helping Eleanor maintain the vast library of medical texts and journals. Yet even in this idyllic setting, shadows lingered. Willow often wandered the halls at night, drawn to portraits of Lily that hung throughout the house. Each painting captured a different stage of her life, from playful childhood innocence to the haunting beauty of her teenage years. Willow couldn't help but wonder what might have been if Lily had survived, if perhaps she and Willow could have been sisters in another life. Despite these bittersweet reflections, Willow found solace in Eleanor's unwavering support. Together, they forged a bond stronger than blood, united by shared trauma and a desire to heal, not just themselves, but others. On Willow's 16th birthday, Eleanor presented her with a gift unlike any other, a custom-designed prosthetic mask crafted from advanced materials. Unlike the crude prototypes she'd seen in Victor's workshop, this one was sleek, lightweight, and capable of mimicking natural facial expressions. "This is my greatest creation yet," Eleanor said proudly, holding it up for Willow to see. "It's yours, to wear whenever you choose, or not at all. The choice is yours." Tears welled in Willow's eyes as she accepted the mask. For so long she had dreamed of blending in, of escaping the stares and whispers. But now, standing before Eleanor, she realized something important. She no longer wanted to hide. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching the mask tightly. "But I don't need it. Not right now. Not while I'm here with you." Eleanor smiled, though sadness flickered in her eyes. "Remember, Willow, the world may try to define you, but you get to decide who you are. And someday when you're ready, I want you to show them what real beauty looks like." As the years passed, Willow grew into a brilliant young woman, excelling in both academics and surgical techniques under Eleanor's tutelage. Yet beneath her newfound confidence lay lingering questions about her origins. Who were her parents? Why had they abandoned her? And why did Eleanor seem reluctant to discuss the details of her rescue? One day, while organizing old files in Eleanor's office, Willow stumbled upon a locked drawer labeled Carter Case. Her heart raced as she recognized the name, her last name. Breaking the lock, she uncovered documents detailing her abandonment, including hospital records and photographs of her biological parents. Among the papers was a note scrawled in Eleanor's handwriting. "She deserves justice. But can I give it to her without destroying her?" Confusion and anger churned inside Willow. Justice for what? What was Eleanor hiding? Over the course of a decade, Willow underwent numerous surgeries under Eleanor's expert care. These procedures weren't designed to erase her scars or transform her into someone she wasn't. They were meant to restore functionality and dignity. Each operation brought incremental improvements, allowing Willow to breathe easier, speak more clearly, and move with less discomfort. But the physical changes were only part of the journey. With each surgery came emotional milestones, moments of triumph mixed with vulnerability as Willow grappled with her evolving identity. She learned that healing wasn't just about fixing what was broken, it was about embracing who she was becoming. The first major surgery focused on reconstructing Willow's nasal passages, which had been severely obstructed due to her condition. After weeks of recovery, she stood before a mirror for the first time since the procedure, tentatively touching the newly reshaped contours of her face. "It feels different," she admitted, her voice tinged with awe. Eleanor smiled gently from behind her. "Different doesn't mean worse, Willow. It means you're growing." For years, Willow had avoided mirrors altogether, unable to face the reflection staring back at her. But now she found herself lingering in front of them, not out of vanity, but curiosity. Slowly, she began to see not just her flaws, but also her resilience. Not every step forward was easy. Some surgeries left Willow bedridden for weeks, battling infections or complications that tested her resolve. There were nights when she cried herself to sleep, wondering if the pain was worth it. Would the world ever accept her, no matter how much she changed? During one particularly difficult recovery period, Eleanor sat beside Willow's bedside, holding her hand firmly. "You don't do this for them," she said quietly. "You do it for your strength, your dignity, your right to live without limitations imposed by others." Willow nodded, though doubt lingered in her heart. Still, she pressed on, determined to reclaim pieces of herself that had been stolen long ago. As Willow healed, she became increasingly involved in Eleanor's work, assisting with consultations and surgeries for other patients facing similar struggles. She saw firsthand the impact of Eleanor's innovations, how they transformed lives not by erasing imperfections, but by restoring hope. One patient in particular left a lasting impression, a teenage boy named Ethan, whose face bore severe burns from a house fire. Like Willow, he carried deep wounds, both visible and invisible, and struggled to imagine a future beyond his trauma. Watching him gain confidence after surgery reminded Willow of her own journey and reignited her determination to help others like him. "I want to be a surgeon," Willow declared one evening as she and Eleanor reviewed case files together. "Not just any surgeon, one like you. Someone who sees people for who they are, not how they look." Eleanor's eyes softened with pride. "You already are, Willow. You've been healing yourself and others since the day I met you." By her late teens, Willow's appearance had undergone significant changes. While far from perfect by societal standards, her features were balanced and expressive, reflecting the inner beauty she had cultivated over the years. Yet the most profound transformation wasn't physical, it was emotional. She stopped hiding behind oversized hoodies and baseball caps, choosing instead to walk through the estate's halls with her head held high. When strangers occasionally visited the estate, for deliveries or rare consultations, she greeted them confidently, refusing to let their initial reactions define her worth. "You're beautiful," Eleanor told her one evening as they strolled through the gardens. Willow laughed softly, shaking her head. "I'm not beautiful, not in the way people expect. But maybe I don't have to be." Eleanor placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Beauty is courage, Willow, and you have more of it than anyone I've ever known." Despite her progress, Willow couldn't ignore the nagging questions about her past. The documents she'd discovered in Eleanor's office haunted her, raising doubts about the woman she trusted most. Why had Eleanor kept those records hidden? What did she know about Willow's biological parents that she refused to share? One night, unable to contain her frustration any longer, Willow confronted Eleanor directly. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, clutching the file containing her hospital records. "About my parents, about why they abandoned me." Eleanor froze, her expression shifting between guilt and sorrow. For a moment she said nothing, her silence filling the room like a suffocating weight. Finally she sighed deeply, sitting down heavily in a nearby chair. "Because I wanted to protect you, Willow, from the truth and from yourself." Eleanor explained everything. The forged note left by Willow's parents, the social media influencers desperate to maintain their perfect image, and the cruel indifference that led to Willow's abandonment. "They didn't deserve you," Eleanor said fiercely, tears streaming down her face. "No child deserves to be treated like a burden. I saved you because I couldn't save Lily, because I saw in you the same spark I once saw in her, a light too precious to extinguish." Willow listened silently, her emotions swirling between anger, sadness, and gratitude. Part of her wanted to hate Eleanor for keeping these secrets, but another part understood. The woman who had raised her hadn't done so out of obligation, but love. Still, the revelation ignited something within Willow. Justice wasn't just about forgiveness, it was about accountability, and she knew exactly where to start. While Willow continued to hone her skills in surgery and medicine under Eleanor's guidance, their lessons extended far beyond the operating table. Eleanor believed that true healing required more than technical expertise. It demanded an understanding of human nature, societal dynamics, and the art of perception. "Surgery is only one tool," Eleanor often reminded Willow. "To truly help others, you must understand what drives them, their fears, their desires, and how they see themselves within the world. With this philosophy in mind, Eleanor introduced Willow to a diverse array of disciplines, each designed to shape her into not just a healer, but a leader. Eleanor insisted that Willow learn the intricacies of running a medical practice, emphasizing that even the noblest intentions could falter without proper planning. Together, they explored topics like financial management, patient relations, and ethical decision-making in healthcare. You can't change the world if you're drowning in debt or legal battles, Eleanor explained during one late-night session over spreadsheets. Understanding business isn't about greed, it's about sustainability. It ensures your work continues long after you're gone. Willow absorbed every lesson eagerly, recognizing the wisdom behind Eleanor's words. For the first time, she began envisioning herself not merely as a surgeon, but as someone who could build institutions capable of reaching countless lives. Among the most transformative lessons was Eleanor's deep dive into psychology, specifically the impact of appearance on self-esteem, relationships, and societal acceptance. They studied case studies of individuals who had undergone reconstructive surgeries, analyzing how these changes influence their mental health and social interactions. People don't just judge others based on looks. They judge themselves through the eyes of others. Eleanor said during one discussion, "Your role isn't just to repair bodies, it's to rebuild identities, to give people permission to reclaim their dignity." These conversations resonated deeply with Willow, whose own journey had been shaped by society's obsession with perfection. She realized that while physical transformation could open doors, true empowerment came from helping patients redefine their worth beyond superficial standards. Perhaps the most unconventional aspect of Eleanor's mentorship was her focus on the power of image, a skill she described as the art of controlling how the world sees you. From crafting public personas to leveraging media narratives, Eleanor taught Willow how to navigate a world obsessed with appearances without succumbing to its pressures. In the estate's library, lined with books on branding, communication, and visual storytelling, Willow learned strategies for presenting herself authentically yet strategically. Eleanor encouraged her to experiment with clothing, posture, and even speech patterns, all while staying true to her core identity. "This isn't about pretending to be someone else," Eleanor clarified. "It's about ensuring your voice is heard. If you want to advocate for those who've been marginalized, you need to command attention and respect." For Willow, these lessons were both liberating and challenging. She practiced speaking confidently in front of mirrors, rehearsing speeches about equality and resilience. Gradually, she shed the timid girl who once hid in shadows, emerging as a poised young woman ready to confront the world head-on. One evening, as snow blanketed the mountains outside, Willow reflected on everything she'd learned. Sitting cross-legged on the floor of the library, surrounded by open books and scattered notes, she turned to Eleanor with a thoughtful expression. "All this, business, psychology, image, it feels so different from surgery," she admitted. "But I think I'm starting to understand why it matters. It's not just about fixing faces, it's about changing minds." Eleanor smiled warmly, pride shining in her eyes. "Exactly, Willow. True change happens when we challenge perceptions, not just in others, but in ourselves. You have the power to rewrite stories, including your own." As Willow approached her early 20s, Eleanor began preparing her for life beyond the secluded estate. They traveled occasionally to nearby towns, where Willow observed firsthand the challenges faced by marginalized communities. Individuals ostracized due to disabilities, deformities, or socioeconomic status. "These are the people you'll serve," Eleanor told her during one such trip. "Not because they're victims, but because they deserve advocates, people who refuse to let society define their value." Inspired by these experiences, Willow envisioned creating a foundation dedicated to providing affordable reconstructive surgeries and psychological support to underserved populations. With Eleanor's backing, she drafted plans for clinics, fundraising campaigns, and educational programs aimed at dismantling stigma around disfigurement. Despite her progress, Willow couldn't escape the lingering questions about her biological parents. Their abandonment still weighed heavily on her heart, though she no longer defined herself by their rejection. One night, as she reviewed old hospital records, she stumbled upon something startling. A recent photograph of her mother, Maggie Carter, smiling radiantly beside her husband at a charity gala. The caption read, "Social media influencers turn philanthropists. Maggie and Ryan Carter donate $1 million to Children's Hospital." Anger surged within Willow. How dare they parade themselves as benefactors when they had abandoned their own child? Yet beneath the rage lay a deeper question. What would she do now that she knew where to find them? In the dim light of Eleanor's estate library, Willow stood before a full-length mirror, her breath catching as she took in the woman staring back at her. It wasn't just the physical changes, the sleek prosthetic mask that smoothed her features into something conventionally beautiful, or the carefully styled hair framing her face. It was the confidence radiating from within, forged through years of pain, resilience, and transformation. Eleanor stepped behind her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're ready," she said softly. "But remember, this isn't about hiding who you are. It's about stepping into the world with your head held high." Willow nodded, though a flicker of doubt lingered. She had chosen a new name to match her new identity. Eva Monroe, a name symbolizing rebirth and strength. Yet beneath the polished exterior, she remained Willow Carter, the girl abandoned by her parents and saved by an act of grace. No amount of surgery or reinvention could erase that truth, or the anger simmering inside her. "I'm not doing this for them," Eva whispered, more to herself than to Eleanor. "I'm doing it for me." With Eleanor's guidance, Eva crafted a persona designed to command attention without revealing too much. She wore tailored clothing, walked with purpose, and spoke with precision, a masterclass in controlled charisma. Her first public appearance came at a gala hosted by a prestigious medical foundation, where Eleanor introduced her as a rising star in reconstructive surgery. The room buzzed with curiosity as Eva moved among the crowd, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries. To the attendees, she was enigmatic, a brilliant young surgeon whose past was shrouded in mystery. Few suspected the scars hidden beneath her flawless facade, both literal and emotional. Yet as Eva mingled, her gaze kept drifting toward one corner of the room. There, plastered across a promotional banner, were familiar faces. Maggie and Ryan Carter, beaming beside their latest philanthropic project. Their presence felt like a slap, an unwelcome reminder of the life they'd discarded. After the event, Eva returned to the estate, her mind racing. Seeing her biological parents reignited the fury she'd tried so hard to suppress. They lived lavishly, celebrated publicly, and pretended to care about causes they'd once ignored, including children like her. Eleanor noticed the storm brewing in Eva's eyes and approached cautiously. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. "They were there," Eva replied, her voice tight with barely contained rage, "smiling like they've done no wrong, like they didn't leave me to die." Eleanor sighed, sitting down beside her. "And what do you want to do about it?" For a moment, Eva hesitated. Part of her wanted revenge, to expose their hypocrisy, to strip away the perfect image they worked so hard to maintain. But another part of her knew that vengeance wouldn't heal the wounds they'd inflicted. It would only deepen them. "I don't know," Eva admitted finally, "but I can't ignore it either." Over the next few weeks, Eva immersed herself in research, piecing together every detail of her parents' lives. She discovered that Maggie and Ryan had built their empire on curated perfection, leveraging social media to sell products, lifestyles, and ideals. Their recent pivot to philanthropy was less altruistic and more strategic, an attempt to polish their tarnished reputation after scandals involving unethical endorsements. Eva realized she had two options: confront them privately or expose them publicly. Either path carried risks, not just for them, but for her. Revealing her true identity might thrust her into the spotlight she'd worked so hard to avoid, but staying silent meant letting their lies stand unchallenged. Ultimately, Eva decided on a third option, one that combined justice with redemption. She would use her story to shine a light on the systemic issues perpetuating stigma and inequality, turning her pain into purpose. With Eleanor's support, Eva launched the Lily Initiative, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing free reconstructive surgeries and mental health resources to individuals affected by disfigurement. Named in honor of Eleanor's late daughter, the foundation quickly gained traction, attracting donors and volunteers eager to make a difference. Eva became its public face, delivering speeches and interviews that captivated audiences worldwide. Her message was simple yet profound. True beauty is courage, the courage to embrace who you are, flaws and all. And it's our responsibility as a society to create spaces where everyone feels seen, valued, and loved. Her words resonated deeply, earning her accolades and admiration. Yet even as she inspired others, Eva wrestled with her own demons. Each speech brought her closer to confronting the people who had shaped and scarred her life. One evening, Eva received an invitation to a private charity dinner hosted by none other than Maggie and Ryan Carter. Though tempted to decline, she accepted, knowing it was time to face them head-on. When she arrived, dressed impeccably and exuding quiet confidence, her parents greeted her warmly, oblivious to her true identity. As they chatted about their latest projects, Eva listened intently, noting the practiced ease with which they dismissed their past misdeeds. Finally, during a lull in conversation, Eva leaned forward, her voice calm but steely. "Do you ever think about the ones you left behind? The lives you deemed unworthy of saving?" Maggie and Ryan froze, confusion flickering across their faces. Then recognition dawned, slowly, painfully, as Eva removed her mask, revealing the scars they had tried so desperately to forget. "You abandoned me," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "But I survived, and now I'm going to show the world exactly who you are and who I am." Instead of publicly shaming her parents, Eva chose a different route. She released a memoir detailing her journey, from abandonment to empowerment, alongside a documentary highlighting the stories of others affected by similar injustices. The revelation sent shockwaves through society, forcing difficult conversations about privilege, prejudice, and accountability. Maggie and Ryan's empire crumbled under the weight of scrutiny, their carefully constructed image shattered. But rather than reveling in their downfall, Eva focused on building bridges, forging partnerships between her foundation and organizations working to dismantle systemic inequities. As she stood on stage at a global summit months later, accepting an award for humanitarian work, Eva reflected on how far she'd come. She wasn't just Eva Monroe, the confident woman with a new face. She was Willow Carter, the resilient survivor who refused to let her past define her. And though scars remained, both visible and invisible, they no longer held power over her. Instead, they served as reminders of her strength, her humanity, and her unwavering commitment to change. 2 decades after her abandonment, Eva Monroe returned to the small, picturesque suburban town of Crestwood, Colorado, the place where her life began and was so cruelly discarded. The town hadn't changed much. Its manicured lawns, white picket fences, and gleaming SUVs were as pristine as ever. It was a community obsessed with appearances, where perfection wasn't just expected, it was demanded. Eva arrived under the guise of a wealthy real estate investor and social reformer, introducing herself as the founder of the Lily Initiative, her nonprofit dedicated to helping abandoned and marginalized children. Her polished demeanor, flawless mask, and air of quiet confidence made her an instant curiosity among the townsfolk. No one suspected the scars hidden beneath her carefully crafted exterior, or the personal vendetta driving her mission. Her goal was simple yet devastating: to expose the hypocrisy of Crestwood's elite, including her biological parents, who still lived there in their gilded bubble. But this time, she wouldn't act out of anger or vengeance. She would dismantle their world with truth, compassion, and unshakable resolve. Eva rented a sprawling estate on the outskirts of town, a property that once belonged to an old family now fallen from grace. Its grandeur matched her persona, but its isolation offered her privacy for the work ahead. Within days, she began hosting events at the house, inviting local influencers, politicians, and philanthropists to discuss community improvement initiatives. Maggie and Ryan Carter, now middle-aged but still clinging to their youthful image, attended one such gathering. They greeted Eva warmly, oblivious to her true identity. To them, she was simply another affluent outsider looking to make a name for herself in their insular world. As they mingled, Eva listened intently to their self-congratulatory speeches about giving back to the community. Their words dripped with irony. Here were the people who had abandoned their own child, now posing as saviors of society. I'm thinking of starting a scholarship fund for disadvantaged youth, Maggie said breezily, sipping champagne. Something to inspire hope, you know? Eva smiled faintly, her eyes cold behind her mask. Hope is important, she replied, but actions speak louder than words. Over the following weeks, Eva ingratiated herself into Crestwood's upper echelons, earning trust while subtly planting seeds of doubt. She shared stories of the children her foundation had helped, children whose lives had been upended by neglect, abuse, and abandonment. Each tale struck a nerve, forcing her audience to confront uncomfortable truths about privilege and responsibility. She also began investigating the town's darker secrets, rumors of foster care scandals, shady adoptions, and families hiding shameful pasts. What she uncovered shocked even her. Crestwood's polished facade masked a history of cruelty and exploitation, perpetuated by those in power. Eva used these findings strategically, leaking bits of information to local journalists and activists. Slowly, cracks began to form in the town's veneer, exposing the rot beneath. One evening, Eva paid a visit to her childhood home, a modest yet immaculate house nestled in a cul-de-sac. Standing outside, she felt a surge of conflicting emotions, anger, sadness, and a strange sense of closure. This was the place where her story began, and where it would finally come full circle. Knocking on the door, she waited patiently until Maggie answered, her face lighting up with practiced charm. Ava, what a lovely surprise. Please come in. Inside, the house was eerily familiar, photos of smiling faces lining the walls, none of which included Eva. As they sat down in the living room, Eva studied her mother closely, noting the lines of age and stress etched into her features. Despite everything, she couldn't help but see a flicker of humanity in Maggie's eyes. I wanted to talk to you about something personal, Eva began, her voice steady. About your past. Maggie stiffened slightly, her smile faltering. My past? Whatever do you mean? Eva reached into her bag and pulled out a folder containing hospital records, adoption papers, and a single photograph of a newborn baby with distorted features. Placing it on the table between them, she watched as recognition dawned on Maggie's face. You left me, Eva said softly, removing her mask to reveal the scars that defined her. You walked away and pretended I didn't exist. But here I am. The confrontation that followed was raw and brutal. Maggie broke down in tears, confessing how overwhelmed and terrified she had been as a young mother desperate to maintain her image. Ryan, summoned hastily by Maggie, tried to defend their actions, but quickly crumbled under Eva's unwavering gaze. It wasn't just about you, Eva said, her voice trembling with emotion. It was about every child who gets thrown away, because they don't fit someone's idea of perfect. You didn't just abandon me, you abandoned your humanity. For the first time, Maggie and Ryan faced the consequences of their choices, not through judgment, but through understanding. Eva refused to let them off easily, but she also recognized their capacity for change, if they chose to embrace it. In the weeks that followed, Eva orchestrated a series of public disclosures, using her platform to shine a light on Crestwood's systemic failures. Her parents, humbled and remorseful, joined her cause, dedicating their resources to support the Lily Initiative and advocate for policy reforms. Though forgiveness remained elusive, Eva found solace in knowing she had forced accountability upon those who had wronged her, and countless others like her. Her journey wasn't just about revenge, it was about transformation, both personal and societal. Standing atop a hill overlooking Crestwood, Eva reflected on her journey. The scars on her face and heart would always remain, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they served as reminders of her strength, resilience, and purpose. Below her, the town buzzed with activity, protests, fundraisers, and discussions sparked by her revelations. Change was slow, messy, and imperfect, but it was happening, and Eva knew she had played a part in making it possible. As the sun set over the horizon, casting golden light across the landscape, Eva whispered a silent promise to the girl she used to be. You are seen, you are valued, and you will never be forgotten. Eva quickly realized that her parents, Maggie and Ryan Carter, had not only survived the scandal of abandoning their firstborn, they had thrived. Their social media empire was a carefully curated facade, built on family values and staged moments of perfection. They posted daily updates about their idyllic life, family dinners, vacations in exotic locations, and heartwarming stories of overcoming adversity, including a fabricated tale of losing their first child to a tragic illness. The irony wasn't lost on Eva. The daughter they claimed to have mourned was alive and standing right before them, but now she was determined to dismantle the lie they'd built. Their two younger children, Emma, 16, and Jake, 14, were picture-perfect teenagers with glowing smiles and Ivy League aspirations. To the outside world, the Carters were America's sweethearts, a model family worshipped by millions. But behind closed doors, Eva suspected cracks existed, cracks she could exploit. Eva knew confronting her parents directly wouldn't be enough. If she wanted to expose their hypocrisy, she needed proof and allies. She began strategically inserting herself into their lives, starting with their kids. Emma and Jake were popular students at Crestwood High, surrounded by constant adoration from peers and teachers alike. Eva volunteered as a mentor for a school leadership program, positioning herself as a role model for ambitious teens. Within weeks, she earned Emma's trust by offering guidance on college applications and sharing stories of her own struggles growing up. "You seem like you've been through so much," Emma said one afternoon during a coffee meeting, "but you always come out stronger. I wish I had your confidence." Eva smiled faintly, her voice soft but deliberate. "Strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up when no one believes in you. Sometimes the people closest to us don't see our pain." Emma nodded thoughtfully, unaware of how deeply those words resonated with Eva's past, or how they hinted at the truth beneath her parents' polished image. While befriending Emma and Jake, Eva also worked her way into the Carters' inner circle by networking with their PR team. Posing as a consultant specializing in crisis management, she offered free advice on enhancing their brand's authenticity. "They love you because you're relatable," Eva told Ryan during a casual lunch. "But relatability requires vulnerability. People connect with imperfection more than perfection." Ryan hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the idea. "We can't risk damaging our reputation. Our followers expect consistency." "Consistency doesn't mean hiding flaws," Eva countered smoothly. "It means owning them. Trust me, I've seen what happens when brands try to cover up scandals. Transparency builds loyalty." Her suggestions planted seeds of doubt within the PR team, who began questioning whether the Carters' overly sanitized narrative might eventually backfire. Meanwhile, Eva used her access to gather intel, emails, contracts, and even private messages, revealing the lengths they'd gone to maintain their image. As Eva pieced together evidence of the Carters' deception, she started leaking anonymous tips to local journalists and online forums. At first, the leaks were subtle, hints of financial irregularities tied to their charity donations or whispers of unethical business practices. Then came the bombshell. An anonymous source provided documents proving the Carters had faked their tragic loss story. Overnight, headlines exploded across news outlets and social media platforms. "Perfect families, perfect lie. Did influencers fabricate dead child for sympathy?" The backlash was immediate and brutal. Followers turned on the Carters, accusing them of exploiting tragedy for profit. Sponsors began pulling endorsements, while critics called for accountability. Yet despite the chaos, Maggie and Ryan remained eerily composed until Eva made her next move. One evening, Eva sent a final leak, a video clip from her hospital records showing footage of her as an infant being abandoned by her parents. Accompanying the video was a heartfelt letter written in her own words, detailing her journey from rejection to resilience. "I am Willow Carter," the letter began. "I am the child you left behind, and I am here to show the world the cost of your pursuit of perfection." The revelation shattered the Carters' empire overnight. Supporters abandoned them en masse, and investigations into their fraudulent activities intensified. For the first time, Maggie and Ryan faced consequences for their actions, not just legally, but emotionally. The fallout hit hardest at home. Emma and Jake, devastated by the betrayal, confronted their parents in a heated argument captured on camera by paparazzi swarming the estate. "How could you do this?" Emma screamed, tears streaming down her face. "You lied to us, to everyone. What kind of monsters are you?" Maggie broke down, sobbing uncontrollably, while Ryan tried and failed to defend their choices. Eva watched from afar, her heart heavy but resolute. She hadn't intended to destroy their family, but she couldn't let their lies stand unchallenged. In the aftermath, Eva reached out to Emma and Jake, offering support and guidance. Though wary at first, they eventually accepted her help, recognizing her genuine desire to heal rather than harm. Together, they began rebuilding their lives, separate from the toxic legacy of their parents. Meanwhile, Eva expanded the Lily Initiative, using the Carters' downfall as a catalyst for change. She partnered with advocacy groups to push for reforms in adoption systems, foster care policies, and societal attitudes toward disfigurement and disability. Though forgiveness remained elusive, Eva found peace in knowing she had forced accountability upon those who had wronged her, and countless others like her. Her journey wasn't just about revenge, it was about transformation, both personal and societal. Standing atop the hill overlooking Crestwood once more, Eva reflected on her journey. The scars on her face and heart would always remain, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they served as reminders of her strength, resilience, and purpose. Below her, the town buzzed with activity, protests, fundraisers, and discussions sparked by her revelations. Change was slow, messy, and imperfect. But it was happening, and Eva knew she had played a part in making it possible. As the sun set over the horizon, casting golden light across the landscape, Eva whispered a silent promise to the girl she used to be. You are seen, you are valued, and you will never be forgotten. The Crestwood Grand Ballroom glittered under opulent chandeliers, its polished marble floors reflecting the glitz and glamour of high society. It was a night meant to celebrate the Carters' latest philanthropic endeavor, a gala raising funds for children in need. Dozens of cameras flashed as guests mingled beneath banners, proclaiming their mission, building brighter futures. Eva stood at the edge of the room, her presence commanding yet understated. Dressed in an elegant black gown, with her prosthetic mask perfectly fitted, she exuded confidence that drew curious glances from attendees. No one suspected the storm she was about to unleash, or the truth hidden behind her poised exterior. As Maggie took the stage to introduce the evening's keynote speaker, Eva stepped forward, her heels clicking softly against the floor. The crowd erupted into polite applause, unaware they were moments away from witnessing one of the most explosive revelations in modern history. Taking the microphone, Eva began her speech with a calm, measured tone. Her words resonated deeply, weaving a narrative of resilience, acceptance, and authenticity. What is beauty? She asked, pausing to let the question hang in the air. Is it perfection? Symmetry? Or is it something deeper, something rooted not in how we look, but in who we are? She went on to share stories of individuals whose lives had been transformed through the Lily Initiative, highlighting their courage and humanity. Guests nodded along, moved by her eloquence and passion. But then her tone shifted, becoming sharper, more pointed. But there's another side to this story, she continued, her voice slicing through the room like a blade. A side where beauty is weaponized, where image becomes currency, and where the pursuit of perfection leaves casualties in its wake. Gasps rippled through the audience as Eva turned toward Maggie and Ryan, seated front row center. Their smiles faltered, replaced by uneasy expressions. This town worships you, Eva said, her gaze piercing. But I wonder if any of you truly know who these people are, or what they've done. Reaching into her clutch, Eva pulled out a stack of documents and placed them on the podium. With deliberate precision, she displayed the first piece of evidence: hospital records detailing her birth and abandonment. My name isn't Eva Monroe, she announced, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. It's Willow Carter, and these records prove that I am your daughter, the child you left behind because I didn't fit your idea of perfect. Murmurs spread through the ballroom like wildfire. Phones were raised, recording every word. Maggie clutched Ryan's arm, her face pale with shock. Eva pressed on, unfazed. She held up foster care documents showing years of neglect and rejection, followed by a DNA test confirming her biological connection to the Carters. Finally, she projected a split-screen image onto the massive screen behind her, one side showing her infant self, disfigured and alone, the other, her current reflection, standing tall and unbroken. You abandoned me, she said, her voice trembling with emotion, but laced with steel. You walked away without a second thought, pretending I never existed. You built your empire on lies, fabricating tragedies, exploiting pain, and hiding behind a facade of virtue. Her eyes locked onto Maggie and Ryan, who sat frozen in their seats, unable to escape the spotlight now trained squarely on them. And today, Eva concluded, her voice rising to fill the cavernous space, you will answer for it, because the world deserves the truth, and so do I. The room erupted into chaos. Gasps turned to screams as guests scrambled to process what they'd just witnessed. Reporters shoved microphones toward Eva, shouting questions. Security guards rushed to contain the frenzy, but it was too late. The story was already spilling onto social media, live streamed to millions around the globe. Maggie collapsed into tears, burying her face in her hands while Ryan tried and failed to defend himself. Their pristine image shattered before their very eyes, leaving only shame and regret in its wake. Meanwhile, Emma and Jake watched from the sidelines, stunned but not entirely surprised. They had suspected cracks in their parents' facade for years, but nothing could have prepared them for this moment. In the days that followed, the fallout was swift and merciless. Sponsors severed ties with the Carters, pulling millions in endorsements. Investigations uncovered a web of fraud and exploitation, leading to criminal charges. Their mansion was auctioned off, their assets seized to repay victims of their schemes. For Eva, the victory wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. She used the attention to amplify her message, appearing on talk shows and giving interviews to discuss systemic issues surrounding abandonment, deformity, and societal pressure. Her story inspired countless others to speak out, sparking a movement for change. Months later, Eva returned to the estate in Oregon, where Eleanor still resided. Together, they stood on the porch overlooking the mountains, watching the sun dip below the horizon. You did it, Eleanor said softly, pride shining in her eyes. You showed them who you really are. Eva nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. And I showed myself too. Though scars remained, both visible and invisible, they no longer held power over her. Instead, they served as reminders of her journey, from a child abandoned in darkness to a woman who stepped boldly into the light, unafraid to be seen. As the wind rustled through the pines, Eva whispered a final promise, not just to herself, but to everyone who had ever felt unseen or unworthy. We deserve to be loved, not for how we look, but for who we are. And we deserve a world that sees us exactly as we are, beautiful, flawed, and human.